As I mentioned, today we have a special guest. Oliver is a former Google member. He was at Google, and while he was there, he actually helped write the training materials for Google. And I think the thing I love most about Ollie is that he takes very complicated topics and he explains them in a way in which I think it is really easy for you to understand and go away and implement. And I think that's very consistent with how we like to teach here at Social Media College. Since leaving Google, Ollie has gone on and started his own digital marketing agency and has worked with some pretty incredible brands. I won't say much more. Ollie, I'm going to hand it over to you just to quickly introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, great to be here. I mean, I did have that time at Google, as John mentioned, and since then I've been working largely as an independent consultant in sort of the online marketing space, specializing, of course, in Google, but really that's extended across to all other platforms as well. So really excited to get stuck in today, talking about a pretty new topic, certainly one that we were not even considering back when I was at Google, this whole realm of AI. And it wasn't even that long ago. So that just shows how fast things have moved. And yeah, we'll be diving right in together. Awesome.
All right, I'll hand it over to you, Ollie, and I'll see everyone back here at the end for a quick sum up.
Cool. Great. So, guys, we've got a little bit to get through together. I'm super pumped to get stuck in. If there's any issues with my mic here or anything like that, you just put it in the chat or let me know. We'll make sure that we can get that resolved as soon as possible. But it should be fine. We've got the upgraded system. We've got the backlight. It's all happening. So I'm really hoping that kind of it should be smooth sailing. So as we dive into this whole topic of ChatGPT, Gemini getting recommended, I want you to start by kind of thinking about the last time you Googled something and actually clicked a link. For a lot of searchers, that's becoming pretty rare, actually. And for a growing number of people, Google might not even be your first stop anymore. So over on the left-hand side, this was the deal we all understood, right? You put in a query, Google gave you 10 options, you made a choice, and the entire industry, SEO, content marketing, paid search, was built around winning one of those spots, basically. The model rewarded whoever could get in front of the most eyeballs, and that's completely been upended, as we all know, with this era of asking. So someone opens ChatGPT or Gemini and asks, who's the best accountant for a small e-commerce business? And the AI doesn't give them 10 links. It gives them a paragraph, maybe 2 or 3 names, a recommendation, and the conversation moves on. There's no scrolling. It's really a recommendation. And everyone that's not in that answer simply doesn't exist anymore. So the conversation has moved away from, the sponsored links at the top, followed by organic SEO competition below that, to just this completely new system. And it's funny because I remember actually, it's just occurred to me now. I remember talking with the head of sales at Google while I was there, and he was talking about, he was a much older guy than I was, much more experienced, talking about how amazing the Google business model was, how nothing had ever been seen like it, and how it just didn't seem possible that it could ever be challenged. And this, I think, is the challenge. It's the biggest challenge Google has faced to its search business. As we'll see, it's actually doing a pretty good job of hanging on to all of its market share, as it does. But that being said, I just think it's very interesting to discuss this, the way that the search function has been completely upended. So we're going to get into it now. Basically, 60% of searches are already ending without a click right now. So that number was already climbing before AI overviews launched, and it's actually accelerating. So it basically means is that for more than half of all searches, nobody is even visiting your website. And that's really dramatically changing the game. What we're finding is that the AI is interpreting and remembering your brand as an entity. Your brand is grouped with others. So then raises the question, are you being grouped with the premium tier of other operators in your industry, or maybe the fluff? And that's just a question of positioning and branding. And basically, when the AI is answering a question, it's drawing on sources that it trusts. So if your brand appears in these sources, you essentially become part of the answer. Now, what does it actually mean to be recommended? So here I want you to think in this SEO versus PPC way. Like whenever I'm teaching people Google Ads or really any kind of online marketing, we're talking about SEO as separate to PPC. Now, SEO is your search engine optimization, which is basically appearing organically in the list of Google search results through things like blogs and trying to specify specific keywords and make sure they all appear on your website so that Google will rank you highly for those keywords. That is kind of where we align with the recommended side of AI answers. So where SEO was the free kind of recommendations provided by Google, not the paid clicks, which was PPC, that is what recommended is to the sponsored results within AI. Now, my thesis is that, and what I'm going to kind of convey in this masterclass is that the organic game is actually where we need to be focusing right now. There's a lot of ambiguity around paid ads. Can we do paid ads? And if some of you guys have agencies or clients of your own, you'll see people kind of, you might be already being asked to sort of run ads in ChatGPT and like be getting pressured to kind of get early onto that wave. What I'll show you is that the paid and sponsored side of it is just extremely infantile. It's underdeveloped. Whereas the recommendation optimization side of things feels like SEO back in 2005. So I was just checking the chat there. So this is really the opportunity. This is what we're going to focus on in this presentation. And I think that you'll find that that's, in fact, by far the most beneficial. When we look at the ad side of things, so the paid advertising side of things, specifically Google's AI ad ecosystem. Now, there are 3 different AI networks within Google's ecosystem right now, okay? And you all have probably used at least one. The first are AI overviews. So when you go and type into Google, you know how they've actually put the AI overviews basically above the rest of the content that appears below. That's actually Google trying to defend their search product from being completely replaced by things like ChatGPT. And it's actually proven to be really, really effective at doing that. So text and shopping ads from existing campaigns are automatically eligible. There's no special setup required. If you're running ads, Google ads, you actually don't need to do anything. You don't need to launch a specific campaign. There have even been rumors that you need to activate AI Max. And again, if any of this is sounding like a different language, you just let me know in the chat. But there have been basically a push within the Google Ads ecosystem to launch something called AI Max recently. And some people think that that's the only way to appear in AI results. And I can tell you here that that is actually not the case. So you're automatically eligible with your existing text and shopping ads in Google Ads. And these ads are actually appearing 394% more than they were in the 8 months before October 2025. So we're seeing a dramatic increase in how many ads are starting to appear. And that's just in the AI overview section. Next, you've got AI mode. Now, you might have seen this again if you go into google.com. You might see it might prompt you to join AI mode. That's just their sort of AI overview on steroids product, which basically does this sort of fancy way of searching where it'll take your search and it'll search it like a normal Google search engine, but it'll also predict what your next 4 or 5 searches might have been and basically show you a broader page of results and kind of try to answer all the follow-up questions you were going to have, and basically just sit somewhere in between Gemini, which is their third product, and AI overviews, which is kind of just answering the question in a very simplistic way in the Google search network. Is that making sense, guys? Give me maybe a little emoji reaction of some sort in the chat here. I saw, there we go, Vincent, thank you. Okay, good. See, it's hard with these virtual calls. You don't get much feedback. So all the emojis, they really mean a lot to me. Let's keep them coming. So essentially, right now within Google's AI ecosystem, where are we with ads? Like, ads are already appearing, but there's no special setup required. It's kind of just factored into your existing Google search campaigns or shopping campaigns, and it's largely keyword-based as well. One little side note while I've got this on the screen, actually, I was doing some research for this masterclass, is that I was reading some reports from a team who were doing some deep research into Google's AI mode. Now, AI mode, as I mentioned, is kind of just Google search on steroids, without being a fully autonomous kind of agent like Google Gemini. But they were able to show using the backend data that they were reading within AI mode that when you made a search inside Google's AI mode, it took something like 60 milliseconds for the system to actually spit its answer back at you. But there was 6 milliseconds at the very beginning that were actually dedicated to going and fetching the appropriate ad for your search. And then, of course, it was showing up blank. So Google has literally built the infrastructure to be able to serve ads within its AI platforms here, although it's choosing not to, which I think is a very interesting insight, because it's like they have them there ready to go. They're serving blank ad spots in AI mode already. It's just a question of someone's going to flip the switch, and Google's revenue engine is just going to pull a whole bunch of of ad clicks in, and it's there ready to go. So they're very smart people. They've thought about all of this, and it is in its early stages, but we're getting there, and it's going to be it's going to be something they'll do probably towards the back half of this year or next year. Now, the next thing I wanted to look at was the state of paid ads within ChatGPT. This slide is literally just where we're at with paid ads for Google. With regards to ChatGPT, now it is super young, this offering. A lot of people are saying that, I've had my own clients kind of asking me to get them live with ads on ChatGPT. It's actually not, it's too early. They launched February 9th. So we're talking 5 weeks ago. It's a pilot program. The spend requirement was $200,000 to participate. They've got something like 50 advertisers doing it, all of them major US brands that can afford to drop $200,000 on an experimental new channel. And I was reading some reports and some kind of feedback from account managers and people working within the agencies that are handling this pilot. And I think it's super interesting. The reporting, for anyone running ads, whether it's Facebook, Google, TikTok, it doesn't matter. The reporting that these guys have been receiving is a once a week CSV file attached to an email with clicks and impressions data, and not really much more than that. So it is truly in its infancy, this kind of thing. And that's why I'm just showing this, because I think it's actually very interesting. The targeting is ultra basic. The format is simple. The whole thing is built around consumer intent patterns. So if you're in B2B and your boss or client is asking about ChatGPT ads, even if you're in B2C, the honest advice is to save the budget. Like, put it into making sure your brand shows up in AI generated answers organically. And that's what we're going to dive into now. So the way I want to approach this, guys, is I have basically 3 different signals that I want to cover that are basically going to form the backbone of what I think is our strategy when it comes to AI recommendations. And we're actually a little bit ahead of time. So I'm just thinking, along the way, if you have any kind of comments, would love to see them in the chat, or even kind of questions. Vincent, appreciate that. You mentioned your prediction. There'll be no ads in AI chat experiences, as Claude won't have them, so the others will be forced not to. Yeah, it's interesting. It could really go anywhere. I think the ad side of things is really finding its feet. Where we're diving into now is the actual recommendations themselves. So the first thing that I want to cover is this third-party validation, right? So how do we get recommended by ChatGPT and Gemini? Essentially, there's a trust gap. Now, these things are incredibly smart, and I really believe it's a net positive for the online advertising space, for our entire industry, that unlike the early days of SEO, it's not that easy to sort of game the system anymore. The neural networks are just too smart. So your website is cool. You can write whatever you want on your website, but the AI does know that you wrote that, and it discounts it accordingly. So we're essentially faced with this gap here where AI knows exactly the fact that we are going to put our best foot forward. It's really focused on what other third parties saying. What do other people think? So it basically cross-references your claims against independent sources. That means like anything out there, forums, editorial mentions, reviews, directories, and community discussions. Vincent's just asked in the chat, does the AI know that a review which it sees on our website is coming from a third-party person or site? It's a good question. I would say if the review is actually embedded onto your website with a direct kind of connection to, for example, Google Business Reviews, then yeah, it would know that that's from a separate source. But if you've just written the review onto your website and then put a little Google logo, I don't think it's going to know that. And why would it? Because you could actually write anything. And so it has been a bit of a wild, wild west, this whole online marketing space. And I actually think that there's an element of these AI models that are leveling the playing field, which really is a positive thing if you're in business for the right reasons. So the consensus across all of these sources that reference you, that link to you, is really what shapes whether you get recommended. Now, this is our first signal that we're covering. Third-party validation. Now, it's nothing new if you've done any SEO or if you've even talked to anyone in SEO. This is a familiar concept. So the question is, cool, what websites then do I need to make sure that I'm appearing in? And I think it's quite interesting what we see next. Now, I did a lot of research into the different sources chosen by ChatGPT, chosen by Gemini, and tried to really get an understanding for which specific sites I could recommend to you guys to appear in. And it is not as simple as that, I'm afraid. So I'm going to pull this up on the screen now. This is going to be, we're going to see two images, two charts, which are going to represent the different sources that Google's AI and ChatGPT are pulling their information from. And it's fairly recent data. So if it's too small, let me know. But what we're seeing is that there are massive variations across Google, ChatGPT in where they take their data from. And that's not just, there aren't just variations sort of between the two platforms from one month to the next, but even within each platform. So Google might heavily favor YouTube this month, but not so much next month. It's a very interesting dynamic space. So I might need to zoom in on this one, it seems. Let me just try and make that bigger. John, shall I just zoom in here?
I'll tell you what, I'll share in the chat the numbers on the screen for those who can't see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
No problem. I can even talk through them actually, guys. So on the, and all of this is recorded as well. Don't forget, guys. So you'll have all of this afterwards. It'll be high res, so it should be very clear. But I'll talk you through it. So on the left-hand side, we've got Google's AI overviews, right? And it's a percentage share of top 10 websites that they're pulling their information from. That's what we're seeing. So the big purple one on the left is Reddit, right? So 21% of Google's AI overviews results come from Reddit. Then it's YouTube at about 20%. Then it's Quora, then LinkedIn, then Gartner, and then a few others from there. ChatGPT is on the right-hand side of this. And it's pretty interesting to see. We've got Wikipedia at 48%. That big purple one over here is Wikipedia for ChatGPT. That means 48% of ChatGPT's citations up until the period, it was actually up until June 2025. So still about 6 months ago. It might even have changed since then. Either way, it's very revealing. 48% was from Wikipedia, then 11% from Reddit. So straight away, Wikipedia isn't even in the top 10 for Google, and yet it's almost half of ChatGPT's results, right? Then ChatGPT goes from Reddit at 11% to Forbes, 7%, G2, 6%, and then TechRadar, and again, a few other small ones. So you see where I'm getting at with this. It's like there are lots of one-size-fits-all recommendations out there and articles telling you to just get it, appear in Reddit or sort of appear in from one website to another, and you'll be well placed within AI. The reality is a little bit more complicated. Oh yeah, so John's just put the data there in the chat. Sorry that it's so small on the screen, guys. Of course, you will have it. And this is data from 10 million citations, by the way. So it's really quite accurate. And Vincent, I agree. Quora. So you're a bit shocked by the fact that Quora appears so highly. I do agree. Junk food, yeah. I thought this was a really interesting one. Now, what I'm going to put up on the screen next. So we've established that there's variation from ChatGPT to Gemini in where they get their information from, right? That's fine. The next thing that I want to explore is, okay, well, if we just focus on Google. Now, Google has 3 different AI networks, platforms, as we've already established. If we focus on them, what is the variation across those 3? Because I think that's a really interesting question. So take a look at this. Even within Google's 3, there's so much inconsistency and variation. Now, this is data literally from January 2026. So it's really the freshest, most up-to-date data we could have got you for the masterclass. So we've got 3 different networks, 3 completely different AI models. Look at in the middle of the screen, we can see basically Medium, which a lot of you might have read articles written on Medium. It's sort of a Substack type like blog and news source. Now, Gemini referenced Medium in 28% of its, or 28% of the time, basically, it was representing, or it was referencing Medium. Google's AI mode and AI overviews barely mention Medium at all. Let's look at Reddit, right? We established on the previous screen that Reddit was pretty important. Now, Reddit was cited 5% of the time by Gemini and 44% of the time by Google's AI overviews, and 40% by AI mode. So like you can imagine within Google, there's 3 AI teams probably operating separately to each other, competing with each other. Maybe they come together once a week to share learnings and things like that, but they're 3 completely different models. So again, it's part of this complexity of, well, how do I just tell you to just appear in Reddit and you'll be fine? It's quite a contextual situation. I do have a recommendation for you, don't fear, which I'm going to give you in a second. But this is setting the stage here to show you how varied the situation really is, and how maybe how early things are as well, because there's not one clear AI model that rules all that we can pander to. We have to be a little bit more agile and really actually play to our strengths as small businesses in crafting quite agile and flexible marketing strategies. Now, the danger is when you read something like this, the danger, and Lyndall's just said that everything's skewed to the US version of the world. A lot of the data likely is, in fact, based on US metrics, absolutely. But it's actually not too dissimilar to the rest of the Western Anglophone markets as well. For example, when I was at Google, they would always test the implementation of different campaign types. For example, at that time, it was Smart Shopping, which later became Performance Max. They would test all of that in the Australian market, literally just as little pilot tests, and then they would just roll it out to the US, copy paste. So we were always their little dummy sort of experimental market, specifically because our customer behavior was very similar, our cultural values, our language, a lot of things are very similar between Australia and the US. And so I would just say that just to temper the idea that this isn't relevant to us. It is in fact still very relevant. And Reddit, YouTube, Medium, these are still major publications and websites ranking very highly in Australia. But it's a great point. It's the data would be different across all countries. And Lyndall, you mentioned more that the opinions may be skewed. Yeah, let me know. Flesh that out a little bit more. I'd love to address it. Not fully getting it, but yeah. So I think let's look at where we are. Then we've established that there's a lot of variation from ChatGPT to Gemini. We've also established that from ChatGPT to Google, I should say, we've also established that within Google, there's a lot of variation across the 3 different platforms there as well. So the situation is starting to reveal itself as being a little bit complex. Now let's look at Reddit in particular. Now Reddit is, they call it the front page of the internet. If you don't use it, it's just a place full of forums. It's an online community. I personally love Reddit. Actually, I think it's one of the few remaining kind of like social media channels that isn't that actually has interesting content in it. That's just a personal opinion. But Reddit has significantly increased in importance over the last year as the LLMs, which means the large language models, as the LLMs have favored more human consensus and perspectives. So the little purple columns that we're seeing on the left-hand side represent the AI citations for Reddit a year ago. And then the darker purple ones, some might even say blue, on the right-hand side of each category represent the AI citations in January of 2026. So you can see actually it's a massive increase, to be honest, in how many of these AI models are referencing Reddit. Now, this is data taken across all of them. So this is not specific to Google or ChatGPT. It's a general data set covering Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of them. So I think two things to take away from this slide. First of all, Reddit actually has really dramatically increased in its importance. And I think that's because what we're seeing is a trend where the AI models are really favoring, like I've said here, consensus, varied opinions, human opinions, and they're really starting to build the importance of multiple opinion points into their answers rather than just one or two, essentially opinions or blogs or articles from very reputable sources, which is quite an interesting trend, right? They're taking in consensus, they're taking in mass opinion. But why did I put this chart on the screen, which instead of just showing you the increase in Reddit citations from last year to now? Well, it's because there's different categories. Now, you can see that on the far left-hand side, we've got apparel, right? Clothing. So a year ago, Reddit represented 4% of AI citations for apparel. Now it's 10%. So that's more than a 200% increase. OTC health or manufacturing, these little ones towards the right-hand side of the chart here, they have increased by similar proportions, but far, far less in the grand scheme of things. And overall, as a percentage share, they're just less significant. So we're seeing significant variance across categories, even within the same source. So there's a complexity here that we just haven't seen before. And that's what I'm really trying to convey with these slides here, is that just as on the previous slide, we saw massive differentiation within Google's networks, and we also saw here massive differentiation across Google, from Google to ChatGPT. We're also seeing it within one source and how each of them might take information from Reddit in particular. So what do we do with all this? I might have just cast a pessimistic tone over the whole situation, or maybe a confusing one, and I'm sorry if I did. But the solution is to get niche, to focus on your industry and your market. Because clearly, for me to tell you to just go and appear in Reddit articles, based on the previous slides that we just saw, would just be false, wouldn't add much value to you guys. And so what we're going to try and do here is basically build a bit of a solution that works for you. So the first thing I want you to do, and this could be a good piece of homework to start researching. Again, we are in the infancy of this entire section of the online marketing space. So have some fun with it. It is very interesting once you start getting into the weeds. So I want you to build a prompt list. So essentially what you're going to do is think about your business, your industry, your niche, and I want you to build a list of literally 20 to 30 prompts that some potential customer out there might search, a customer who's never heard of you, a customer who's simply in the exploration phase. If you want inspiration, you could actually just ask ChatGPT for inspiration, or check out Reddit threads in your niche for ideas. Check out the people also ask section within Google. And I want you to build out a list of potential searches that someone might make. Once you've got your list, right, let's say 20 to 30 different questions, you might even want to spreadsheet this or just do it more casually as sort of an exercise, but I would As a spreadsheet person, I would be spreadsheeting it. I would be listing every single question and getting ready for step 2, which is to run them, right? So you're going to go and ask ChatGPT or Gemini, ideally in an incognito window, I will say that, each of those prompts about your business. You might even want to include your competitors' names in there, but we're going to make sure we don't specifically ask for you, because the goal here is to work out the context in which ChatGPT is recommending people to, maybe it's us, but maybe it's our competitors in our industry or local market. And that is the field that we're going to start to play in. So you're going to run it. You're going to run all of these different prompts. Use incognito mode. The reason we do that is to avoid personalization. We don't want the system to personalize its answers to us. We want to see what it would show a total random, someone who hasn't had the beauty of encountering you or your business yet. And we're going to document everything that comes back. And we're going to look for patterns. So who's appearing? Some people will be appearing multiple times. You'll be seeing on which platforms, right? Like ChatGPT or Gemini or both. In which sources? Is it Reddit? Is it their YouTube channel that's really pushing them to appear? That's the landscape you're trying to break into. Now, what you'll find is that each of these platforms will actually give you their sources when they give you the answer. And that's kind of your key. That's your key to unlocking the situation, to understanding which websites Google or ChatGPT are really favoring as they go about recommending you or your competitors. And it's this reverse engineering process that is the answer to getting recommended by ChatGPT and Gemini, because of the context which I just the context which I just painted, which is that the overall picture is so elaborate, so complex, so varied across channels, within sources, across networks, that we have to reverse engineer for our particular business and market. Something I wanted to cover here within this sort of strategy, and again, feel free to chuck any questions or comments up in the chat, guys. I'm loving what you're putting in there so far. Essentially, we got to think about depth of coverage, not breadth, right? So a brand that has 40 pieces of deeply interconnected content in one niche will outrank a brand with 400 generic posts every time. So there's a meaningful difference between just placing a bio on a page and cultivating a genuine expert entity whose work appears in conferences, academic reports, papers, third-party publications, standard committees, or academic collaborations. So the system loves deep coverage, which means there's a duality here between breadth and depth. Now, you do want both, but the goal really is not just to get mentioned many, many times. Now that was okay back in the SEO days, where we could just appear in a million different kind of articles, and it wouldn't matter because it would establish our sort of domain authority. Now we actually really want to be mentioned in a more authentic way, which again is why it's actually good news for small businesses that are doing this for the right reasons, that are here to do business authentically and properly, because it's the context in which your brand is mentioned that really matters now, not just the number of times it's mentioned. All right, so you need to be appearing alongside words like trusted, recommended, results, expert, all these kinds of things. As a little anecdote, I was working on a project a few years ago, and an SEO company was involved separately. They'd been hired by the client. And they sort of showed me their strategy, which was literally just, they had bought a whole bunch of domains, a whole bunch of different sort of blog websites, which didn't really serve any purpose other than to write fake articles that would link back to the client's original website and establish authority in that way, which is really interesting. Now, that might have worked in the SEO era. I think that kind of thing is starting to be a little bit outdated, and that the AI models would be too smart for that, because the authority of the domain that's linking to the client's website just wouldn't really have been there. And simply linking doesn't matter anymore. It's about the context. I'll just address a couple of questions that are appearing here. Lyndall's asked text search versus audio search, which is really interesting. Now, again, of course, this depends on which sort of model we're using, but I would say it's largely the same. Now, as far as getting recommended, it's such early days for this entire situation. That being said, the models are the same whether it's audio, like voice to text, like speaking to the AI, or text. So the answers it's going to give you are largely going to be the same, except for maybe a few nuances with regards to tone of voice, phrasing, and things like that when it's spoken versus written. So I would say that everything we're discussing shouldn't really differentiate between written and spoken. Just as a side note there. And Vincent's asked, how do we know if this works or may work? I mean, that's an excellent question. We're in such early days here. This is just based on. I mean, a lot of this actually already is working, Vincent. It's very early days. I think my recommendation of going through and basically reverse engineering is almost a foolproof way, because we're going to look at specifically how your competitors are appearing. It's not just generic advice to to write articles about this or that. It's really to look specifically in your industry at what exactly is happening, and not just your industry, but your local market as well. So you might want to Google, I'm looking for a top marketing firm in Sydney. Who do you recommend? And that's something that I Googled yesterday, for example. I was very curious to see what showed up. How the system's already perceiving you is, I think, a very interesting thing to explore, and the most surefire way to ensure that you actually do get some results, because it's based on the facts of how it's actually working, not concepts. I hope that kind of answers your question in some way. Nice. So I mentioned this duality between depth and breadth. So we need depth in the marketing strategy. By depth, I mean going deep in terms of how much we connect with other people, content collaborations, PR. You could think about collab posts, brand alignments, all sorts of projects where you combine your own brand image with others. And that's going to kind of produce signals that the models are more likely to recognize and trust, right? Because the same message is coming from multiple different sources. We love that. But that being said, I think there's a lot to be said here for becoming a domain expert. You want to be going deep on a particular topic. And as you build out your content strategy, think about the different pillars that you can kind of explore that make you a real expert in a certain in a certain field, rather than just being a high level kind of expert that covers a wide range of topics related to your core central idea. I think it's much more worthwhile here with regards to your email marketing, your blog posts, your YouTube videos, your content creation, to go pretty deep from a conceptual perspective on less topics. Now let's look at a second signal here. So all that was that first signal, guys. That was basically the first signal of appearing in other people's sites, right? So third-party appearing in third-party websites, blogs, articles, things like that. That's everything we've been exploring so far. Now, the second thing I want to get you thinking about is changing your thinking from keywords, SEO land, to actual entities, right? So a keyword is something you add to a page. An entity is something you build over time through consistency, presence, third-party recognition. And you can't actually manufacture this overnight, which is actually good news for businesses that have been operating for years, as I've been saying. So your history is an asset that most of them have never thought to leverage. So that most small businesses have never thought to leverage. So the authenticity of your existence is almost coming out through how old your website is, how for how long you have been appearing in different third-party sources. And I want to get you moving away from this idea of keywords and putting specific keywords in your blog content, because AI doesn't really care about that. What we need to do is focus on building an entity. So Google doesn't care about the keyword plumber Sydney. I keep saying Google. I'm so used to giving presentations on Google. Gemini, I should say, or ChatGPT, don't care about the keyword itself. They care about the entity of ABC Plumbing in this case. So that means with regards to our content strategy, we want to really establish ourselves across multiple different domains. And that means our own website, of course, socials, YouTube, potentially have an email marketing situation as well. We want to be appearing in local papers. We want to have a trust pilot. We want to be appearing in review sites. We kind of need to make sure that our digital footprint is cohesive, that it's broad, but that it's also deep. You see that it's an ambiguous space because the models are so complex that they actually require this level of authenticity in order to really recommend you. So they want to see that ABC Plumbing has been licensed since 2014. It's located at X address, it's mentioned in Y sources, and it was reviewed on Z platforms. All of that forms your existence as an entity rather than just sort of an obscure asset that's linked from a few different other blog articles and things. So it's broader than that. Now, as I've written here, it's something that the AI can pin down with confidence, and the more data points that consistently describe your business consistently across the web, the more confidently the AI can include you in a recommendation. Vincent's just asked, do high quality domains matter as much or any more? And the answer is actually yes. Now, if you go do a little bit of do some searches on Gemini or ChatGPT, you'll probably see a lot of the same domains appearing. Things like Trustpilot or even Broadsheet or Sydney Morning Herald, the New York Times. Like a lot of these same domains will consistently appear when you start searching in your particular niche. And so they're often extremely reputable, and so they do absolutely matter. It's obviously the gold standard to appear in a major publication like that. But you've almost got to work your way up to that by appearing more broadly across the blogs, the forums, maybe more local review sites, and things like that. Okay, guys, I'm jumping in now with the rest of the recording, which comes from our Google Ads Masters group rather than Social Media College, because I'm silly and I forgot to start recording earlier when I delivered it for the second time. So here we go. I've just started the recording. The other thing is, to be honest, I recorded the previous delivery of this masterclass, so it's all there. It's all good. It's all good. Nobody panic. I might even chop them up and connect them. It'll take me an extra bit of time, but that's my mistake. So just wanted to throw it out for questions before we dive into what I'm taking as the third signal. All good? We're like half an hour in now. Time flies when you're having fun. I think we're doing pretty well. Might be time to sip the coffee. All good? Okay, cool. We have covered two different things. The first thing was third-party validation. The second, I'm talking about changing your thinking from keywords, which is hard for all the Google Ads nerds in this group to do. We're going to go from keywords into entity thinking. And the third is this, it's structured data. Now, I mentioned before that like the reason ChatGPT probably loves Wikipedia so much is because the data is so beautifully structured. And it has been for like 20 years. So AI systems operate on a comprehension budget, literally. Like you hear about, data centers chewing up electricity. Like what does all that mean? They're literally crunching data to understand what would be the best answer to give you when you type something in. So if your website is convoluted, complicated, built on some like old 2002 WordPress sort of shitty backend that's like really hard for it to interpret, it's going to basically just kind of penalize you by citing you less because it's going to cost it more money to go in there and figure out what the hell is going on. That's the gist of it, right? So there's two questions I want you to ask your web developer this week. This could be about your business or your client's business, or you could even just note these questions down to ask whoever the hell is relevant later on. But basically, I thought this would be a good way, and I can cover kind of what it means, because I don't know if anyone in this call here are developers, but essentially you need to ask, do we have like a local business schema set up, and are our frequently asked questions properly marked up? Two very easy ways to sort of enter into this space. Schema markup is basically the ID card for your business. It tells AI exactly who you are, your prices and your location in a very sort of readable, digestible format. And the frequently asked question schema is like if you answer a question in a structured frequently asked questions block rather than just text on the website, but you actually identify that it's the beginning of a fact section using certain parameters, the AI is 40% more likely to cite you as the source. And so the idea is instead of just putting a bunch of text on our website, we can actually like label certain things as being what they are, so the AI can kind of shortcut to that information. And it's a similar approach for anyone who's done SEO work. It's largely similar as well. But I just thought I'd leave these two questions here because obviously, I mean, people's entire professions are contained within this slide. So I don't expect you to go and be experts on structured data, but I think it's just good to plant the seed that particularly as we move towards like an agentic world where you have AI executing tasks for you and it needs to go onto someone's website, book in a meeting or purchase something and it needs to do it all on its own, if you haven't provided it with clear kind of like signposting throughout the website as to what is what, you risk to potentially miss out on the agent making purchases or booking in calls or doing whatever it has to do on your website. Now, we're potentially a couple of years away from that being like a real problem, but I think that's actually going to become quite a significant kind of aspect of this whole world over the next few years, this agentic AI model. Now, guys, from here, I'm going to just conclude, and then we can have a chat, throw it into some questions. Kieran, okay, actually, some cool things in the comments here. Billy has asked, how about using AI to create things like that? Like using AI to actually help make the frequently asked content. So that's a great idea. Like, absolutely do that. That's what it's really good at. In fact, better than just saying, write me a series of frequently asked questions for my website. Get good at prompting so that you write something more along the lines of like, I am trying to build out my frequently asked questions section in order to be perfectly optimized for AI to interpret. Write me a list of 7 to 10 frequently asked questions that will, be reflective of the top keyword searches for my business, blah, blah, blah. Like, write a detailed prompt. So to answer your question, Billy, yes, that will be really awesome. That's not going to hurt you. Lean on AI a lot. Kieran said that ChatGPT writes great schema markup, and Kieran is a bit of a boss at all this, everything I'm talking about, SEO, website building, things like that. He knows what he's talking about. So leaning on the AI to sort of help us to be more interpretable by the AI sounds like the beginning of the Matrix 4, but actually it's potentially a good thing and kind of where this is all heading. So I'm going to just conclude and then I'll answer a few more of these. Good to see the chat blowing up. So the current AI search experience is basically summarized text answers. That's literally what it is. But it's a transitional phase, right? We're rapidly moving toward an agentic system where like AI agents inform users, act on their behalf, do it all for us. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll all be out of a job and we won't have to even do any clicking on the internet because AI will be doing it for us. So traditional SEO focused on keyword strings, AI focuses on entities, right? This is a really important thing that we covered. Your goal is like not really to rank for a term, but to be the verified authority for a concept. You know what I mean? It's a little bit more abstract. It's actually a bit more natural if you think about it. It's kind of just like the way that you might grow if you weren't online, but in the offline world. Like, you just build your authority, your domain expertise, and AI will interpret that and understand it. Now, the systems themselves operate on a comprehension budget. So the easier you make it for a machine to parse your data with structured schema, the more likely you are to be cited. And I've said this, as we move toward the agentic web, your brand must be callable. So if your services aren't defined by these schema actions, AI agents can't execute transactions on your behalf. And while we might not fully be there right now, that's where it's all heading, just as something to keep in mind. So that's pretty much it, guys. I would love to now throw it back to you for any questions, thoughts, comments, and we can basically just see what's what in a very interactive format. Thank you so much for joining me, by the way. If you have to jump off, you don't have time for questions, no problem at all. But I really appreciate all you legends for jumping on. And feel free to throw some emojis in, or even, if you want to be wild on what is for me a Thursday morning, for many of you probably a Wednesday night, you could turn your microphone off and even just say hello, so I don't feel like such a loner here. Oh, we'll stick with the emojis. Maybe we're shy.
I'll turn on the mic. Oh,
there we go.
I can come to party. Come on. I searched for, so I have that commercial roofing business that I'm a partner of, and I'm trying to figure things out and bring my part to the table. And I was just searching in an incognito window, and apparently there's another brand in California I just learned about. So we have a competitor. Of course, we're in Tennessee, but now I'm looking at how can I update that schema and try and tickle the ChatGPT-ness out of this.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be
so people were saying they get ChatGPT to go ahead and write all that because we build with this site is built with WordPress and Elementor, and I have the Yoast plugin
Mm.
installed. So I don't know if there's I've
Well,
never dived
Kieran,
into this.
if Kieran's in here, Kieran, do you wanna chime in and add some info regarding what you said about schema?
Come on, Karen.
Sure. Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Yeah, so schema markup, just if you don't know about it, it uses just like a meta tag that you drop into your code, but it has very specific syntax. So you can ask ChatGPT to write you the right schema and then drop it right into the website. Works great.
Okay. Is
Give it
that
your
something that the plugin might? Is anyone familiar with the like Yoast or Rank Math? I've never used Rank Math, but I'm familiar with Yoast. And it seems like there's a schema tab. I don't know if it's I don't wanna I don't wanna create conflicts. You know what I mean? If I'm creating one system, I don't wanna paste it in there twice or
Are you using the free Yoast or Pro?
yeah. Yeah, just the free, just the
So the free Yoast doesn't give you a whole lot.
okay.
You won't really be conflicting with anything there.
Okay. But you're saying take the ChatGPT, copy paste that, plug that into the page.
Yeah, so it goes into your header or your footer
Yeah.
scripts. So you said you're using Elementor.
Yeah.
So I believe there's a section in Elementor where you can drop in um,
Yeah, HTML widget.
the JSON. Yeah, it's like adding a Google Tag Manager
Okay.
script or an analytics script.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Great.
Holly,
Karen,
you're on.
are you just saying that you just take like your copy and then add transition it into the schema formatted copy, or like what's the workflow?
So schema, I don't know how familiar you are with schema, but
Somewhat, yeah.
yeah, so it describes different entities. So I think with Drew, he wanted to do like we put a local business schema on every website we built. And within local business schema, there's like sub schemas that go below that. So there's like HVAC contractor, there's,
Mhm.
there's the generic local business. I think there's possibly one for roofing, Drew. So
Yeah.
what you would do with ChatGPT is, schema has it's always been there, but the syntax is very difficult to work with. So you would just drop in all of your business information. So your business name, your website URL, maybe some of your services that you offer. Opening hours very important. Your email contact, phone number, anything else that you've got, and ChatGPT will write up the correct local schema for you
Okay.
pretty
And
accurately.
the schema, is this is like a defined thing? Is it like like I can go look it up in the schema dictionary? Or like it's because you're talking about it as if it's like its own language,
Yeah, it kind
Mhm.
of is. It's a structured data.
right? And are the
Yeah.
tags you use like already defined, or are you making the
Yes.
tags for yourself?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So the language, I guess, Lara, is, if that's what you're asking, is defined. So there's
Okay.
certain. That's why ChatGPT is so good at writing it, because it's studied all the schema, so it knows how to write it flawlessly.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, you can also ask it to suggest what schema tags you should possibly use. Yeah, Drew. Yeah, recipe would be a schema. Yeah, so
That was my
different types
next
of content, types of content do have structured data. I'm more familiar with local business.
Yeah, that
Um,
was my next question, is if you're not doing local business, um, how do you find the right schema?
Ask
so you can ask ChatGPT to find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one
hey,
way to do it, or
Okay.
Google. If you want to go old school, you can still Google that.
Yeah.
hey,
Okay.
check this out.
All right.
When I put
I
it
will
in
shut
here well, here, I'll add to the discussion here. When I put it in here, and once I found out there's a California business, too, it said something like, I just asked it, "Hey, if I have a WordPress website, how should I set up the local business schema so you'll understand it clearly?" And it said, roofing contractor, that's capital R, capital C, jammed one word. Roofing contractor is a subtype of home and construction business, which is itself a subtype of local business. And then it says this is better than generic local business, capital L, capital B, one word, because it tells search engines exactly what you do. And then it gave me a little piece of here, I'll paste it, a little piece of JavaScript or no, JSON for that. And then it gives me a bigger chunk of JSON. LD, what is that, Kieran? JSON LD.
That's it.
Okay.
What do you mean that's it, Kieran? That's what?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's JSON. Yeah, that you would.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, it was a question.
JSON dot or dash LD.
Yes.
JSON dash learning disabled. What is it? What is LD? What is lockdown?
That's one of those ones where I'll have to look it up and let you know.
Okay.
I feel like at this point we're all out here playing checkers and Kieran's playing chess. We're just trying to keep up.
Here, you guys are gonna know. Oh shoot, the message you're trying to send. Oh, never mind. It topped it out. Well,
so yeah, it goes into a script tag, and then you put all that into your with Elementor. There's a place to put scripts in the footer or the header of the website, and then there's Google has a verification site where you can pop in your URL or your markup to make sure it's valid.
Oh, kind of like Facebook
schema
that
tester.
open graph. Okay, schema tester. Okay.
Yep, Google schema tester.
Schema tester.
That's a good one. Schema tester. Didn't know about that. Thank you so much, Kieran, for jumping in.
Yeah, man.
No worries.
I think like an interesting takeaway is that where we are at with this AI recommendation stuff now is like where the SEO people in 2001 were kind of sitting. So it came to define the space for the next 2 decades or more, except the people who got an early start were actually pretty far ahead, and they would manage to, like, just by getting a really good start with SEO in the early days, really put you into a good position. That's kind of how this whole thing feels. That being said, I think that the paid ads side of it, if you're competent in Google ads, even in Facebook ads and kind of the traditional marketing platforms, given how rudimentary it is, ChatGPT advertising right now, paid advertising, even the absence of paid ads within Gemini and kind of this pilot testing within AI mode, like, it's just not really an option. So I think it's about being a really good paid operator in the traditional sort of ad platforms, and then starting to dip your toes more and more into getting recommended by ChatGPT and Gemini, until we have a better option for actually doing paid ads in those AI platforms, which doesn't exist yet. Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions, guys?
Follow up on Kieran. Let's see who pasted the search.google.test, the rich results. Because I was okay. Then when I first Googled, it was just developers.google.com/search/docs. Test your structured data is what it says. Is it the same? This looks.
So are you looking at the one that has 2 screens, rich results test and schema markup validator?
Yeah. Yep.
So the one on the left, the rich results test, I believe, you can just pop in your live URL.
Okay.
And that's going to detect what's on the page. So that'll make sure it's installed correctly. Oh, there you go.
So that's this one.
So
is this? So just to confirm for everyone, Kieran, so this is a way to test if your website has schema properly set up?
Yes. And if you're using Yoast, it will already pop in the article schema, I believe, and the website schema. But then you have to pay for Yoast Pro to add the local business schema through their interface. But you can just add it. It's it's an open source code you can just add to your footer or header.
And for anyone wondering, this is literally just the link that someone, I think Kieran, put in the chat. It's just a search, search-google.com/test/rich results.
Hi guys. So what you can also do is go to the link that I dropped there, validator.schema.org. It does the same thing. So I use both the validator.schema.org and the Google one to validate the different schemas. And schemas used so much by the search engines and GBT that the schema.org is the official documentation site for it. So you can go have a look at everything that's going on there.
Interesting. I think I might have done this stuff with e-commerce work more, trying to map out like if the product feed was correctly schemed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's product schema,
Yeah.
which is a whole other entity.
Different to local business schema. Cool.
The schema.org, there's a search field, but it looks like a search field for the site content. Is that a search field to paste your URL or no? Yeah.
Yeah. So you put your URL in there. If you just go to validator.schema.org, just click on the validate button, and then it looks the same as the Google one, where you can either put in your URL, but what's also good is you'll see there's an option to put in a code snippet. So if you've got GBT to write the code for you, you can have that check to see if the code is working right.
Cool. Save to bookmarks. Have we all got those links?
Yeah.
Cool. That's really helpful. Nice, guys. Well, from my end, listen, there's that's pretty much it. We're coming towards time, and I don't want to keep you. I know it's for most of you, it's a Wednesday evening. But any other kind of thoughts, questions, comments, throw them in now, or forever hold your peace.
Oliver, will you be sharing your presentation since I missed the first 15 minutes?
Oh yeah, I will. And I also forgot to press record.
I
Idiot.
know.
So I will share it. What I'll also do is I'll put in the recording. Actually, I've already put it in for the previous delivery of the masterclass to that other like community. It's the same presentation. Maybe I just
Maybe you could do a transcript.
yeah, I'll figure something out, but it'll all be in there. It'll be in the recording section. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put the slides in as well, probably.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I thought the most interesting thing was just seeing like how varied it was, the information that Google was taking across its different AI platforms, and compared to ChatGPT, and then even within Reddit, what they're taking, like it's just all over the place. So all you can do is do like a bottom-up sort of approach for your business specifically, or your client's business, or whoever you're working on.
Let me pull people in here with Medium. Medium is something that I just a few months ago I said, yeah, I'll throw $5 at that, and I subscribed, and I said, you know what, I should really write articles on here because it seems like a good platform where you might have some intentional leads coming from. Do others in here? Do you guys like Medium, or do you? Because I've never done a Reddit or what's another?
Are you writing in Medium or reading? Sorry, reading from Medium.
I was reading, but that was inspiring me to write, executing writing and thinking about it. There's two different things, but yeah, I'd like to. In fact,
Medium is great.
Huh?
I think Medium is great. It's really, I mean, I think it's really good if you are, are striving to be a thought leader and, anything pretty much.
Great. Well, that settles it. I'm going to continue to think about writing on Medium.
Whatever you do, don't actually write. That's the one thing. Delay it as much as you can.
That's the safe thing. Yeah. No, I just added myself Confessions of a Slacker Ambitious Marketing Freelancer, and then I that's going to be my. I just created it like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, perfect.
List, something like that. Playlist, reading list, writing list.
Yeah. Cool. Nice. I've only ever used Medium to read interesting articles. I haven't written anything.
Oh, I got stories. Yeah.
But I think the idea is that the LLMs are really embracing this like human consensus. So like Medium, Reddit, like they're taking the opinions and perspectives of people rather than just like one anonymous kind of mega entity, like like I mentioned, the New York Times or something.
Well, I was just thinking, I don't know, yesterday, the day before yesterday, the thought went through my head like, man, when did that shift? Medium and Reddit, it used to be WordPress and Blogspot and I don't know, what's another Quora? Like just
Well,
these hot.
as I showed in the graph, it was like a huge increase within a year up until late last year. So it's this, someone at the back end is like pushing buttons to consciously adjust the algorithm so that they're actually looking for more human consensus, which is better. Like it's kind of more representative of what people actually think and what the market actually thinks about a product or service, or anything, any topic for that matter. It is better in the macro if you think about it.
My head went to, I wonder who knows somebody at Medium. I wonder who at Medium knows somebody and ChatGPT. They're like, here, let me massage the algorithm. So
yeah, I would say I would be surprised if they even need to communicate. Like, you know what I mean? It's all public on the internet,
right.
But it is a funny one because they'd be benefiting from it. Yeah.
I have one more question for Oliver, or I guess Kieran, and that is, so I looked up all the types, and I'm not a local business. It's not really my niche for my clients either. Like, do you just go through the types and figure out anything that's going to apply, to your business, to your brand? Or I don't know if I don't even know if I'm asking the right question.
No, that's a good question. And I think Peter was talking about it a little bit a while ago, is that you can browse the schema.org website. All the schemas are there.
Yeah.
And there's, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but I think there's like 8 to 10 top level. And then they drill down into further content types. So you sort of would click through and, like, I'm just looking at the website now, there's an event type, there's a person type. So if you're working with people and brands, and then obviously place, local business, that's what I would be working with mostly. So I would approach it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure all of you are on Google Business, and you'll find that the categories on Google Business is very restrictive. You can't find everything there that you want to list your business as. And the schema markup and the categories that you've got there is similar. You won't necessarily find exactly your business type on there. So you've got to go for the best kind of fit.
And
what is your niche, Lara, or who do you work with?
I work with, I do lead gen for mostly like larger advertisers in industries like insurance, education, healthcare, auto warranty, stuff like that.
Okay, there is a pretty robust healthcare schema markup, I believe.
Okay.
And I would explore the organization.
I see that one here.
Yeah, that's for like the big guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would you also just like let ChatGPT do that for you?
Yeah, you can do that
Oh,
too.
yeah, that's a great idea.
Here's the business side. What would be a suitable schema for this?
Yeah, like give
some
give
content I'm writing.
Exactly. Give it the URL. Tell it to read everything that it can on the internet about the business. Give it any extra information you can, and then have it decide which categories it should use. It's probably going to be more effective and time efficient than you doing it.
Yeah. Now I get it. Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good segment.
I'd have a quick Google Ads search ads question if we can squeeze it in here at the
Oh, that
buzzer.
old dog. Google Ads, eh? Let's
Yeah, yeah. This is me trying to get on the Q&A last night, and I was the only studious attendee. I was like, "Where's everybody?" Um, but, but I just launched search ads for the roofing business, and
Right.
I did a pin and kind of a radius and trying to the same search terms. And I'm just wondering if I have everything's phrase match, and I wonder if I don't have enough because they're just not triggering. I've got like 2 impressions in like
What's
a
the
couple
what's the
minutes.
bid strategy?
I said the one where it's open ended, and I said I'll choose one and then bid per click. Or
Maximize clicks.
yeah,
You have a
since it's not.
maximum CPC bid limit or not?
I'm sure I do. That might be too low considering. I don't know.
Yeah, if it is too low, that would explain like really a lack of impressions. You might want to
Okay.
either turn the maximum off completely or just increase the maximum.
Okay.
And you want
It's
to
a
get
modest.
different.
So
Yeah. But so if it's a competitive space like roofing, it could be. Then even though you have a modest budget, the cost per click to even play might be pretty high.
right.
You know what I mean? Like a
So
lawyer's paying $100 a click, you might be paying 15, 20, like, so your budget actually doesn't really matter. It's more about the cost per click that it's going to cost to even participate compared to what the competitors are paying.
Okay. That might be it. Yeah.
What I sometimes do, in fact, I do this more often than not. When I'm starting out a campaign like that, I know a lot of people, including Oliver, like maximize clicks. I normally start with manual, and literally, like I'll put my keywords in, and I'll put all of them at whatever $1, and I wait a little, maybe just a couple hours, no impressions. Okay, let me try $1.50. And give it a little time to percolate, and I keep going, and eventually you'll just start getting traffic, and then you'll start getting clicks, and then you kind of know, all right, well, at least I know I can get some clicks at this level, and then from there you can bring some down and bring others up and whatever. But that's how I approach newer accounts, new campaigns when I'm really not sure what my click costs are going to be.
I would say though, Lara, if you're doing that across all of the keywords and you're putting them all on one and then all on $1.50 and then all on two, it's like the same as just having the campaign level maximize clicks with a maximum CPC at the campaign level applying to all the keywords. But once you start doing different keywords with different CPCs for each, then it's a different story, of course. But I think
Yeah, I mean, that's just how I started out until, yeah, I hear what you're saying. But yeah, once I see certain ones that maybe are working better than others, I'll just play with those, the max,
Yeah.
the bid on those, and it just, I'm just kind of looking for the signals and uh, what's getting clicks that's also relevant.
Yeah.
So you can bid on the keyword, on that phrase match keyword phrase or that term. You can go in.
Only, yeah, not in smart bidding, but if you're on manual, you can.
Manual CPC is a bid strategy.
Okay. I think that's what I'm on, right? Would I know?
So manual CPC and maximize clicks are different,
Oh,
but they are
okay.
the two clicks based bid strategies. So
Okay. And if I'm
everything
in one,
else, yeah,
if I'm in one, can I swap it? Can I change it? Can I edit
yeah.
that?
You can change it whenever you want. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
But in the early days, like where you're at with this brand new campaign, you want to basically like you're in a good position where you didn't overspend and like waste heaps of money. You didn't get many clicks, you probably got none and a few impressions. That's good. Now you just edge the maximum you're willing to pay up bit by bit until like you start to actually get some clicks at a sustainable rate.
Not the daily budget. You're talking go into the click cost.
The
Raise
actual
that.
amount you're paying for each auction, the amount you're bidding in the auction, like literally sitting at the auction, like raising your flag and being like, I'll pay this much.
Yeah.
That is the maximum cost per click.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think to elaborate on what Oliver is saying, if your campaign is on maximize clicks bid strategy, it's inside that bid strategy where you will set your maximum bid, right, Oliver? But if you're
Yeah,
doing manual, you would do the bids at the keyword or ad group level.
yeah,
In the ad group or keyword settings, if
yeah.
you're in manual, if you're in maximize clicks or any kind, well, if you're in maximize clicks, you would set that bid, the maximum bid at within your bid strategy settings, not at the keyword or ad group level,
Yeah. Except if you're
right,
doing like
Oliver?
if you're doing target CPA, you can also change it at the ad group
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, I was
But yeah,
trying not to make it
yeah. So just focus on focus on clicks-based bid strategies. Choose the manual one if you're feeling manual. I personally prefer the maximize clicks, which is just you're setting a maximum at the overall campaign level and inch your way up or down from there.
Okay.
Oliver, I have a question for you. One of the reasons I don't use maximize clicks is because I'm impatient and I feel like it has to learn for longer, whereas manual, you can get faster feedback. Is
maybe
that
that's maybe
is
maybe
that
that's
incorrect?
maybe that's true. I've never felt that to be the case. I mean, maybe it depends. Like if you set maximum to maximize clicks, it's really going to just get you as many clicks as you can. I have never personally felt that delay or the slowness.
Okay.
And if I ever did feel that, it would be like the benefits that I experience of just being able to control the maximum CPC at the campaign level, I feel outweigh whatever delay there might be.
Right. I
Mm.
mean, all right, I might give it another try. I just always felt it was like in learning mode, don't do anything.
Well, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, right? Like they're all good options.
Yeah.
Yeah. But guys, I promised an hour-long meeting. We're now sitting at 6 minutes past the hour, so I've gone over time. My apologies. But I think that was a really productive little session. So thank you so much. And I think we can all throw some emojis in here to celebrate. This is probably the most people that have ever joined one of these live calls that I've had in this. So can we just take a second to acknowledge that? You know, I think that's worth some emojis. I'll even throw some in myself, throwing some love. So thank you so much, guys, for joining. Been really
Thanks.
good.
Oliver,
The
for
recording
doing
will
it.
be available, and I hope to speak to you guys very soon. Cheers.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Oliver.
Oliver.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Great emoji technique.